join us on and off. So yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for letting us come and talk to you today. I'll start, Ali, if that's all right. I'll just explain my role within the engagement team for Swim England. So my role is a business engagement manager. So my patch is the Northwest. So it's up to Cumbria, and I've got a random kind of like little bit of Derbyshire in there as well. So my job is to kind of is the relationship holder for leisure operators, swim schools, active partnerships, and the hundreds of pools in my patch, in my area. There's 7 of us across England, and yeah, my patch is the Northwest. So really, I suppose, to try and explain it, my role is to kind of understand operations, the kind of aquatic priorities and strategies within the leisure operators or swim schools. It might be that just kind of I connect with a swim coordinator or a swim aquatic manager or a head of leisure to work alongside them and help with any kind of strategies or plans moving forward. It could be that might be like a growth in workforce, or like help with qualifications and CPDs for staff, or looking at their learn to swim numbers and growing their learn to swim programs, making sure there's a pathway from like birth, from baby lessons right the way through to like a club link session. So club sessions, I can help with like national curriculum results for school swimming and trying to help on the school swimming program. Or kind of if a strategy is to bring more people in the water, then this is where like a perfect example is our Water Wellbeing Accreditation. So my role is to kind of have that, I'm the first point of call, and then I bring in the right areas of the Swim England team to help with whatever area it might be. And I've worked in leisure for 20 years, and I was an aquatic manager myself, so sometimes it might just be a bit of a chat and a brew and a shout about operations and what all aquatics is kind of things. So I'll pass over to Ali. So Ali is our, get this right, Ali, health and wellbeing manager.
That's the right one.
Did I say it
That's
right?
it.
I
Yeah.
meant to change it before today, just to make sure I get the title right. So yeah, so Ali's going to talk to you today about the Water Wellbeing Accreditation, and I'll let Ali go from there. If there's
Brilliant.
anybody in the room that I don't have a relationship with your site or your swim school, it might be worth, Darren will share my email address after. Cheryl, are you Burnley? Yes, you're
Yeah.
Burnley, aren't you? And already doing, or on the process of doing water wellbeing. Yeah. Which is nice. So you might have heard all this before, Cheryl.
That's right.
But yeah, if there's anyone that you think I might be useful connecting with, just send me an email after this call today, and I'll set up an initial meeting with the swim coordinator or the aquatic lead. Okay, Ali.
Brilliant. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you, Zoe. Yeah, so Ali Noyce, Health and Wellbeing Manager at Swim England. We're part of a 3-person health team within the organisation. Got Andrew Power, who was our water wellbeing specialist, and I'm joined by Matt, who's currently on the train, so it's probably going to dip in and out occasionally, who's our health and wellbeing officer. But between the 3 of us, we cover all things health related to swimming and being in the water. And it's not always about swimming. Very often it's about some sort of aquatic activity. And predominantly, as Zoe says, she very much deals with the aquatic side of things. What we tend to do on the health team is we'll not only deal with the aquatic elements of pool owners and operators, but we also have significant reach within the health world to ensure that we can get that important message out around the benefits of being in the water. So I'm going to run through the Water Wellbeing Accreditation slide deck. There's quite a lot of it. And so I probably don't make any apologies if you've heard some of it before, because I think it's also always useful to just be reminded of some of the resources that are available. And a really important thing to say is that the Water Wellbeing Accreditation is a process that a pool will go through. But within that, and what I talk about today, there are a wealth of resources that are available separately and independently for people that, for participants, for pool owners, operators, swim teachers, etc. So all of the resources that I'm talking about are not just part of the accreditation. So I'll just share my screen if that's okay. It'll take a moment or two just to load. Hopefully you can see that. Can I have a thumbs up from someone? Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Right, let's start off at the beginning. Great. Okay, Water Wellbeing programme has probably been on a journey of around 12 years, as you can see from the slide. And in the early days, there was various publications and specifically a dementia-friendly swimming project, that 3-year project that finished in 2017. All of that information is available online should you have a spare time to read it. But fundamentally, what it's saying is, if you are someone with a long-term health condition or an impairment, then there are significant health and mental and physical health benefits of being in the water. So off the back of that, we developed our Water Wellbeing Programme that in August 2021 developed into an accreditation. So just before we go into that, why be accredited? Well, I think we all start from the same place, which is we want the general public within the country to be able to have access to water if it will benefit them. And one of the big things is the conversations with the health world. So our Water Wellbeing Accreditation, once it's achieved, is sending a message to any healthcare professional, any future participant, any external relationship that we have, that particular pool is good in terms of the experience for the participant. It's accessible and it's inclusive. And a doctor, a social prescriber, any healthcare professional can confidently refer that patient or client to that pool, knowing that that will be an experience that is going to benefit that individual. And the way that the healthcare professional would identify local accredited pools is to use our Pool Finder search tool on our website, where there's a filter for Water Wellbeing Accreditation. So I'll just move into the accreditation. I'll just summarise the stages, if that's okay first, and then we'll go a little bit deeper and look at the content of each one. So the accreditation is a 2-year process, very much led by the pool owner or operator themselves. We're not particularly prescriptive as to timescales and targets that are set, because we don't run any pools. They are owned by the operator. Stage 1 is all about accessibility and inclusivity for the building, the workforce, and the marketing material. Stage 2 is about specifically what aquatic activity then happens in that water. And again, I always emphasise aquatic activity. It's not just about swimming. And then stage 3 is about 3 to 6 months down the line after the accreditation is achieved, where we'll be just asking for evidence around the impact of the particular activity that's happened and what the Water Wellbeing Programme has done to support the future and existing participants. It's a 2-year accreditation. We're just now coming around with those that have been with us on that journey for 2 years. And we're now looking at retention of accreditation moving forward, which is a really, really simple process. And where are we so far? We've currently got 204 accredited sites across the country, hundreds of more sites working with us to achieve accreditation. We've got major operators such as Everyone Active with all of their sites accredited, and working very closely with Serco and Freedom to achieve very much the same for those organisations over this year and next. But far more importantly than those numbers, what we're looking to do with accreditation is to support future participants. So when they have that situation where your GP is recommending to someone that's going to be on an NHS waiting list for a while that they need to be getting in the pool, they're able to go on the Pool Finder search tool and find an accredited pool with less than 30 minutes travel distance. And that's the important thing. It's not about all these condensed numbers in certain parts of the country. We want the accreditation to be rolled out across the whole of the country. And as importantly, tens of thousands of hours of personalised aquatic activity being delivered in pools in local communities across the country. And that's a significant benefit to the individuals and as to the population as a whole. So I'm just going to go through now the individual stages in a little bit more detail, just to help you understand what the operator, the pool owner, has to do to achieve the accreditation, but most importantly, improve that customer experience. The very first thing is an action plan. And again, that's not prescriptive. It's very much what does that pool, what does that operator want to achieve in line with their health agenda, their health goals, and how we can support around that. And they set the timescales. The second activity, which is probably the most important and most urgent of stage 1, is the environmental assessment. And what this is a free downloadable tool available to absolutely anyone, which is always best printed out, and it basically takes the customer through the journey from the bus stop or the car park into the building, through reception, through the corridors, to the changing rooms, through the toilet, showers, and into the pool, and then the reverse journey, but through the eyes of someone with a long-term health condition. So this is not a legal document. There is no pass or fail, but what it does is it highlights, and it will highlight a lot of barriers to that overall customer journey where it could be improved. Now, it might be a really large barrier that is going to be significant through lack of a hoist or lack of a lift for someone to get into the pool, which is obviously a big problem. But it could be also little tiny things, like, for example, are the coat hooks near the steps on the entry to the pool. So someone that has body image issues, or maybe is just body conscious or has scarring, are they able to wear a robe or bathrobe or a beach robe on the side of the pool till they get to the steps, and then just hang the robe on some coat hooks? That might feel like a little barrier, but actually in the eyes of someone who's going back to the pool for the first time in maybe decades, that's a big one. So what will happen as a result of this assessment is that an action plan will be created that highlights all of those barriers that could be overcome to really enhance that overall customer journey and the experience. There'll always be things on there, and typically the biggest things are signage, and that's very much around signage within the big changing rooms when they're particularly big, locker signage, and particularly on the return journey from the pool. So you can imagine someone who perhaps has anxiety, they've had a fantastic time in the pool, first time ever in the pool, they've had a great session, come out of the pool, don't know where to find their locker, can't find the locker, don't remember their locker number, can't find the toilets, can't find the showers, and can't find the right type of cubicle to go and change in. And that then detracts from that amazing experience. So these barriers will be highlighted through the assessment tool. That's the building itself. The next piece is to look at the workforce itself. And we know typically that in leisure centres, the workforce can be quite high turnover and can be quite young. Particularly maybe 16 to 18-year-old lifeguards, receptionists, etc., just out of school, just out of college, etc. And their confidence in engaging really well with people with long-term health conditions and impairments is quite low. And they're usually quite scared to actually have those conversations. So we partnered up with Activity Alliance back in 2020 to enhance an existing set of e-learning that they had to include an aquatic element. And this is a 60 to 90 minute set of e-learning aimed at individuals who can then undertake that training. The objectives, as you can see, are on the screen there. It's all about making people feel more confident and competent to engage in a great way with our participants. But it can also be used as typically a group session for monthly lifeguard trainings. That is entirely owned by Activity Alliance, sitting on their learning platform. The actual training was externally evaluated in 2023, and it came up 95% plus fit for purpose on every single measure. So a really great piece of training for the staff. And then one of the final pieces of stage one is about the marketing material. So if we think about that initial decision to get into the pool for someone with a long-term health condition, that's not made at the leisure centre. It's not made by the pool. It's made either remotely in a healthcare environment or with friends or family, etc. And so the first thing that's going to happen is when a participant has identified that pool is they're pretty much going to look at flyers or posters or videos in the libraries or GP surgeries, or they're going to go on the website or potentially an app. So the question around the marketing material is, and I put myself in the shoes of maybe, for an example, a 70-year-old lady needing a knee replacement. GP's just told me I'm going to be on the waiting list for 2.5 years. GP is saying to me quite sensibly, actually, probably one of the safest places for you to be active and exercise is in the water. So when I then go onto the website of this particular pool, what do I see? Now, I know on the landing page you're going to see 20-year-old people sweating it out in the gym, looking incredibly fit and healthy, which is not me. But is there an area on that website where I can find things that relate to me and find things that relate to the barriers that I've already got in my head that are giving me reasons not to go into the water? And actually, very interestingly enough, the two biggest barriers for someone who's going to the water for the first time is not about the water. It's where do I put my handbag and my wallet, and what can I wear? So is there something on that website that shows the clothing policy that says you don't have to go out and buy a swimming costume when you don't even know whether you like this or not. You can actually just go into the water with a tight fitting t-shirt and a pair of cycle shorts. So is there something on there that removes that barrier for me? Is there something on the website that says, actually, the lockers, you either need padlocks and this is what you need to do, or all you need is a pound coin and that's returnable? So all of these little barriers can be broken down by having the right information on that website. We also then provide some Activity Alliance marketing resources that are, again, free to use for operators or people running the websites and the apps, just to ensure that the actual makeup and the setup of that website is in the best position for someone to be able to read and understand it. And then the final piece of stage 1 is data collection. This is not a big job. It just relates to the activity that will be undertaken for stage 2. And we just ask for a baseline so that we can see 3 to 6 months down the line, and then every 6 months is how are you doing on that particular session. And here it's really important where we think about the data collection, we also think about sustainability of sessions. So we've very often seen funded groups of maybe 12 sessions fully funded, and then it all drops off when the funding finishes. So actually this data collection is really important ongoing to ensure that we're still seeing brand new participants coming through this particular activity. Okay, that's stage 1. Is there any questions around stage 1 before I move on to stage 2? No. Good. Okay, thank you. So stage 2 is all about what then happens in the water. Now, we know across the country there are some amazing sessions going on where you will have people with long-term health conditions, disabilities and impairments already taking part in aquatic activity, whether that be learning to swim, whether it be some sort of aquasize session. But very often that's quite a challenge for that individual. So what we concentrate on stage 2 is a specific set of 3 options, and the operator picks which option they want to use as evidence for stage 2, and can then just concentrate on that one element, but typically they move across other elements and other activities in the water as they move forward. So I'm just going to go through each one of those options, but to get accreditation, this stage 1 needs to have been completed, stage 2 started, and they only needed to have started one of these elements to be able to achieve the accreditation. So the first one is exercise referral. So we know there's some fantastic work being done by GP referral services within leisure centres across the country. But interestingly enough, if you have instructors with level 3 GP referral qualifications, they don't include anything to do with water. So unless that, without wanting to stereotype, but clearly I'm going to, unless those GP referral instructors actually enjoy the water and are swimmers themselves, then it's unlikely that they're likely to be offering an aquatic option in their range of solutions that they can come up with for their patients or clients. So what we've been running now for a number of years is an aquatic activity for health course. It's a 2-day face-to-face course aimed purely at level 3 GP referral instructors and above, because they bring to the party this amazing knowledge and experience around the workings of the body, understanding of the body, and what exercises can be done. So what this 2-day course does is adds on to their existing knowledge the reasons why being in the water is different, the different properties of water that make exercise quite different in some cases. And therefore they leave that 2-day course not only with a better understanding of what someone can benefit from being in the water with, but a series of exercise cards that they can either then use to set up group sessions or just use those exercises to talk to their patients or clients or customers, recommending exercises on an individual basis. What they'll also come away with is some templates for 2 specific sessions around walk-in water and aqua circuits. And we know that there's lots of sessions with those names across the country, but very often they're just for mainstream participants. These particular sessions that we have are aimed at those with long-term health conditions and impairments. And are slightly different, but enables that individual to then run specific sessions to accommodate those with long-term health conditions. The second element of the stage 2 is learn to swim, and mostly adult learn to swim. So we also know that regardless of where a swim teacher took their qualifications, whether it be STA, Old ASA, Swim England, or wherever, there is very limited content around teaching adults, if anything, but no content around supporting those with long-term health conditions. So the way that we support swim teachers and participants to make that learn to swim experience as great as it can be is we have a range of health fact sheets. So these are on our Swim England Health Hub, and I'll send the link along with other bits of information in the slide deck afterwards. And these health fact sheets are aimed at absolutely anyone, from the participants to someone working at the leisure centre. And what they do is they just talk about the condition itself and what it means for someone that has that condition when they're wanting to enter the water for aquatic activity. We continually add to those, and they're regularly reviewed by members of our Swim England Health Commission, who are significant people from the health world, the Richmond group of charities, etc., with the knowledge and experience to be able to make sure that these are spot on and fit for purpose. The next piece we have for swim teachers, coaches and volunteers is a 3 to 4 hour CPD, live and but online, where we take the individual that attends the course through the main health categories, talks about the health condition itself, how it's medically managed, what it means to the individual, but as importantly, how those lesson activities and lesson plans can be tweaked or amended to really enhance that lesson or that swimming journey for someone with a long-term health condition. What they'll also then come away with a digital resource that takes those main health conditions and breaks it down into more specific conditions. So, for example, they'll look at respiratory disorders on the CPD, but the digital resource will then provide additional support around asthma, COPD, cystic fibrosis, etc. Feedback from that CPD is really good, and particularly some most experienced swim teachers are finding it really useful. I did have feedback last year from one teacher that's been teaching adults for in excess of 20 odd years, and said what it enabled her to do was probably push one of their participants a little bit further than she would have done before, because she'd always held back because of that particular health condition. Now she had a better understanding of it. She was more able to challenge that participant, and therefore their swimming progress improved, their confidence improved, and actually they felt better physically and mentally as a result of it. And the next piece of support that we can also again offer for swim teachers, and this is a physical copy of a separate chapter of the Swim England toolkit, so it can be purchased separately for a nominal fee off our swim shop. And what it is, it's literally a hard copy chapter that would be kept somewhere in the equipment room or where the teachers keep their administration paperwork, etc. And it's just a really quick aid memoir for somebody that's just about to teach either a newly diagnosed participant, or they're covering a lesson for someone because of sickness or holiday, and they've just found out somebody that has a heart problem that's in this session, and they don't know what to do. Far better than Googling it, because you're never going to get the right answer if you Google it. Just refer to that book and you'll have a little bit of knowledge, a little bit more confidence in able to support that swimmer. So that's the Adult Learn to Swim programme. The third element that can be used for accreditation is something called Good Boost. So I will just quickly go through that. And again, if anyone's interested in anything I've talked about today, then you've got my details, so please do drop me a line, or Matt, of course. So Good Boost is a way where a participant, either on an individual basis or a group basis, that has a long-term health condition of some sort, can have access to a bespoke set of aquatic exercises via a digital tablet. So it can be done individually, but typically it's done as a group session. So I'll just talk you through how that would work. So the participants all turn up at a prescribed time at the pool, and the facilitator of the session would have all the tablets in the reception area, and individuals would log in. So if it's their very first time, they probably come 10-15 minutes early, because they've got a questionnaire on the tablet to answer, which is similar to the conversations that you'd have with a GP referral instructor. But once they've registered, they just need to log in at the beginning of a session. So they all then go off and get changed, and the facilitator of the session would take the tablets to the side of the pool, and as you can see, would set those tablets up. They're completely waterproof and they float. So what would then happen is each participant would get into the water to their tablet, and they would then be asked a couple of questions at the start. So if you've got a long-term health condition that has a flare-up, are you having one today? If that is the case, then the exercise will be slightly muted for that particular session. But either way, every participant will go into that first activity. So you've got a group of people with different health conditions doing different exercises, but all at the same time, just for 2 minutes. They do that exercise. You can see from the right-hand side of the slide, it's written in text, but there's also a video. So if you've got a visual impairment or English isn't your first language, then you can still do these sessions because you can see what you need to do. At the end of that 2-minute exercise, then generally in a Good Boost group session, there'll either be a silly game or people will just have a bit of a chat, as like people like to do in the water. But before that happens, there are 2 questions that are asked, one about pain and one about impact, hard or difficult, etc. So they didn't do the little break, and then they all go back and do their second exercise, which again is all different. What's really interesting with all this is once that session is finished, typically about 10 exercises, is that those tablets, once they're docked back at their docking station, but overnight, artificial intelligence will take the answers to those questions that the participant has answered and will automatically tweak the exercises for the next session. So that participant is going on a progressive journey, but linked to themselves as opposed to anyone else in the group. The other real benefit about Good Boost is that because there's an app, it's an aqua app, but there is also on Good Boost, there's also a dry side app and also Bump Boost, which is pre and postnatal. But what all the medical decisions, all the medical advice, etc., all the information is within the app. So the facilitator of the session only needs to have gone through some very quick Good Boost training that teaches them how to use the system. So this can be run by a local volunteer, it can be run by a member of staff from the leisure centre. This session can be run by virtually anybody, or indeed some pools that are operating it will also just let a participant hire the tablet for a nominal fee to come into the water at a session that's appropriate for them, but at a time that suits them. So just a little bit more about Good Boost. The benefit of Good Boost is because of all this rich information that's going into the tablets from the participants themselves, each operator will get a set of data on a monthly dashboard. Again, this is all information in the slides, but the 2 figures on the far right for me are probably the most meaningful. Bottom right, a third of people attending Good Boost sessions across the country, they can't walk 100 metres. So this isn't your park run people. These aren't people getting on bikes and going cycling. These are people that potentially even struggle to get into the leisure centre without support for themselves. And then top right is 40% of people taking part in Good Boost either can't swim or got low confidence in swimming. So the idea with Good Boost is that it's a great opportunity to get active, to exercise in the right way. But as those participants get more confident, is that actually there's a pathway here to then adult learn to swim program, to actually move these individuals on their own aquatic journey. And just one last slide for Good Boost. Bottom right hand corner, as you can see, for every pool operating Good Boost, there's the equivalent of £90,000 worth of health savings per year. Which is fantastic news. And then the left-hand side is a couple of photos of group sessions. The right-hand photo is one of those silly games that are played in between the actual exercises. That's the aquatic equivalent of Hungry Hippos, and it's real fun. But you'll also see from the data there that pain is reduced and quality of life is increased. So that's the stage 2 options. And then stage 3 finally is quite straightforward, 3 to 6 months down the line. And all we ask from that particular pool is that they let us know how they're progressing in terms of the numbers for the goals that they set themselves. Demonstrate the impact of that session by providing a business story. So that's really about how did the accreditation go? How did that session get started? Is it sustainable, etc.? And then the very best bit, which is providing at least one personal case study. And these case studies that come in are outstanding. The stories of people's lives that have been changed, pain and medication has been reduced, they get better sleep. We had one case of an individual doing Good Boost, whose name was taken off an NHS waiting list because as a result of Good Boost, they got more mobility back and didn't have to have an operation that had been planned. So some great information coming forward that we then share with the rest of the water wellbeing population. So that is the 3 stages of the accreditation. I've just got a few more resources if that's okay, just to let you know about. And again, as I say, these resources are available separate to the accreditation programme. So we have a series of posters and flyers which can be made available, which just talk about the things that an individual needs to consider before they go into the water if they have a long-term health condition. And the large posters are positioned at appropriate parts of the leisure centre on that customer journey. I mentioned right at the beginning about this, the need to upskill the health world so that when someone is in front of a healthcare professional and would benefit from being in the water, that healthcare professional is then able and confident enough to understand the benefits of being in the water and how they can signpost that individual. So we've created a series of 3 videos, and I'm just going to, they're only short, but I'll show you one of those in a moment. Series of 3 videos created and presented by healthcare professionals aimed at talking to other healthcare professionals. So this particular one is a GP. So it's Dr. Hussein Al-Zubaydi, and I'll just play that for you just so that you can understand one of them. But what I will do is then send out copies of all 3 videos and the toolkits for anyone to use where they think it's appropriate. So could I just have a thumbs up, Zoe, if the sound works, because just in case. Thank you.
My number 1 tip is go to your local pool, experience what it's like, experience what swimming can do for you, and then you will become an incredible advocate for the patient. When I first met Darren, he was struggling to keep at even a gentle pace. He was getting quite breathless. That was a combination of course, his baseline fitness, but also the fact that he was recently out of hospital, suffering with a respiratory infection with COVID.
At the end of February 21, I ended up in intensive care for 45 days, put me in an induced coma for 15 days, and then following discharge I had 2 readmissions from various infections. Immediately in post-recovery I had real problems with my leg function. I also had breathing issues, I was very short of breath, and then to try and address that I started swimming.
Being able to see Darren swim in the flesh, it's not something that most healthcare professionals will ever get the privilege of doing, because as he continued to swim, you could see visibly how different he was. He was fitter, he looked younger, he looked stronger, and also more confident as well.
You know, swimming is good all-round exercise. So if a doctor's telling you to do something, that's got huge value. And I'm sure most medical professionals would say fitness is something people need to do, but you need to be reminded to do it, and you need to keep being reminded to do it.
I think it's important that we have that in the back of our mind when we are signposting patients to access the water. For many, swimming can be a really good gateway activity. Encouraging them and supporting them on that journey can be far more powerful than a number of the other interventions that we do.
So as I said, that's the first of the 3 videos that we have. The second one is a physiotherapist who runs her own MS session at her local pool. And then the third one is the Royal College of Nursing, and one particular nurse focusing on 3 of her participants, 3 of her swimmers, who then tell their little story about how being in the water has basically changed their lives and their health, etc. So I will send all of that out to you. And then the very final thing I promise is then another piece of work that we did to reach out to the health world. We worked with the University of Nottingham to create a really short piece of e-learning, as you can see, aquatic activity and swimming for health. Only takes about 20 minutes. It's actually on the NHS learning platform, which has about 2.2 million registered users. So anyone connected with the NHS, this can be part of the learning that they then do. But thankfully, the NHS learning platform powers that be have allowed us a specific link so that absolutely anyone in the external world can access this free of charge. and just undertake that particular piece of e-learning. Highly recommend that anyone who is either working in a leisure centre or interacting with anyone that is going to be going swimming or doing aquatic activity, is that they do this learning, because it just explains why being in the water is slightly different, and the benefits of being in the water. So I can send the link out for that particular piece of e-learning. Okay, and that is me. I'm going to stop sharing so that I can see people, and just ask the thoughts, questions, comments, feedback.
I'm happy to comment. Thanks, Ali. It's just so interesting. We as Zoe mentioned at the start, Burnley, we're sort of working now towards our accreditation, but we've actually got all of the sort of pathways that we're working on. We should have started with one, but yeah, we're doing the Learn to Swim, the Good Boost, and the aquatic exercise.
Are you? Wow, well done.
Yes, it's quite a lot of work actually, but yeah, when we're set up, we'll be well aware. But there's some amazing resources, and the training stuff is really great as well. We just have a bit of a shift in staffing as well, so we're just looking at the new members of staff accessing the training as well, and then we'll be all set up. But yeah, we're really excited by it. I think it's fantastic.
Brilliant. Yeah, and actually you're quite right, is whereas a lot of people will just focus in on one particular area of stage 2, but just by the nature of the work that's being done at the pool, and it is hard work, yeah, because you need to, it needs to be accessible, is that then the pool then naturally evolves into offering other sessions, and it just grows arms and legs.
Yeah, we also interlink, don't they? So yeah,
yes,
it makes sense to do it all together. But yeah, it's been a bit tricky. Yeah, thank you.
Very much so. Thank you. Michael, you have your hand up.
Yeah. Hi, Ali.
Hi.
So you may have said one of the questions that I answered. I had a bit of an issue changing over from phone to laptop, and I lost you for a minute.
Okay.
But generally speaking, yeah, I thought really good presentation. Thanks so much for that, because I think there's some really practical steps in there that sometimes we'll get these types of presentations and it can all be a little bit vague, but there's actual things you go, oh yes, I know what we can do to make something better. So that was great. I think there's one generic question, if you like, that I've got, and then there's one that's a bit more specific. So the generic one, I did have a bit of a look on the accreditation list while we were on. I noticed that there are some. And so I work for GLL in Preston, and there are a number of GLL facilities up and down the countries that are on there. Is there a general best practice? It's far from all GLL pools there. So is it kind of like you expect one pool per local authority area maybe to specialise in this, or would you? How would you look at that? I do have another one afterwards. Sorry if you don't mind indulging that as well.
Yeah, no, of course, absolutely. Very transparent about the journey we've been on. So the GLL sites that are accredited, there's a couple of specific ones where the local general manager has said, oh, I want to do this, passionate about it, and they've just gone ahead and done it, which is fantastic. There are a number of GLL sites around the country, and specifically in London, that are accredited as a result of a London Marathon Charitable Trust, London Marathon Foundation, that is now Pool Pod project, which started in 2018. Was supposed to run for 2 years and ended up running for 4 because of COVID. But part of the programme was you did the Water Wellbeing programme, and they were funded with a Pool Pod, which is the electronic lift into the pool, which you might be familiar with. GLL nationally have expressed an interest in doing more accreditation, as have, say, Serco and Freedom have committed. So the start of the journey is very much linked. It's very much down to who wants to do what. So we will work with specific sites for some of the national operators that have a passion to get involved with this, or we'll work with a national operator at strategic level and they'll say, well, absolutely, everybody needs to do this. We're really flexible in whichever way it needs to be done.
Brilliant, thank you. And then slightly more specific question was around the Good Boost. I know you probably shouldn't do, but you just get straight into, how could we use this? And do you need to be on that accreditation pathway to use Good Boost, or can the two things run? Can just be done?
They're completely separate. We have a relationship with Good Boost. They're a separate organisation. And no, please, you're very welcome. I can do an introduction. And you can then talk to Good Boost, completely separate to the Water Wellbeing programme. Would recommend, if you don't want to do the accreditation, that you still do the environmental assessment, because the worst case would be is you're and Good Boost has a cost to it, of course it does, is that you start the Good Boost sessions, but then next thing you know, you find there's a part of the customer journey that prevents a particular type of individual getting into the water. Which it just doesn't feel right. So yeah, but the environmental assessment's completely free and, as I say, downloadable. So no, every one of those things is completely separate to the Water Wellbeing Accreditation.
That's great, thank you.
Darren, you got your hand up?
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for that, Ali. Really, really useful presentation. Lots of obviously info, good practice. Love the video. I think mine's probably more a question for kind of Cheryl and the team at Burnley, really. Obviously, you're on that journey and just kind of sharing that journey in terms of how you're going to connect with the GPs and social prescribers, etc., and how important that is for the programme. And again, back to Ali, if there's any other good practice on where other areas have done that. Obviously, Leamington Spa have done it really well, but yeah, just locally, really, we could connect that with.
I think for us, yeah, we've done all of our environmental checklists and stuff. We've had various people from the organisation do it, like centre managers, health and wellbeing managers, the aquatic managers. So lots of people have input from different sort of angles, which has been really useful. We've got a lot of actions that we sort of took away from that. So just various things that we just need to make a change to make it easier for people. We have identified monies and designated some monies internally for Good Boost. So we're purchasing our tablets soon, and we're going to be setting up some group sessions. For us, we just need to sort of work out logistically how we're going to embed it into sort of like the pathways that we currently have. And it's like, does everybody come to triage and then the instructors look at what's most appropriate? We're just internally looking at that. But actually it was Laura from Blackpool and Jen who I've had discussions with before, who've sort of shared their best practice with me, which I've been looking at using it to inform our decisions. But in terms of health coaches and social prescribers as well, we've sort of set up a group where we're going to look at it being almost like a co-delivered for a lot of the projects, where they will refer their patients but also support the sessions. So that's something we've sort of had agreed as well, and that's sort of where we're up to.
Brilliant, thanks. Yeah, there's lots of things in my head. Obviously, some national programs that are coming, things like Connect to Work. We've obviously piloting the Work Well program across various parts of Lancashire. So it's really important that we kind of match it all up to those programs. So I think perhaps offline we'll have another conversation on how we can kind of do that, really, and bring these kind of programs together.
And I think from our perspective, what we aim to do as a health team is that to make more strategic links with relationships to the health world, but that will also then go down to a more local level. So between Andrew, Matt, and myself, we constantly are talking to the active partnerships, because they've got all the connections. We've been really successful most recently in one of the active partnerships on the south coast, who've received and matched some funding from Public Health to take all of the pools in that particular active partnership through the accreditation and fund some of their activities. But even if the funding's not available, the active partnerships have got that relationship with the health world. The other thing that we will always do, the three of us, is we attend the key conferences from the health world. So the Royal College of Nursing conferences, the GP conferences, the British Lifestyle Medicine conferences, all of those important health conferences that the aquatic world wouldn't necessarily attend, but we do. So we try and create that link, introduce our training, and then more specifically where we have local pools and operators that really struggle with that, is that we try and support that with our connections at a higher level to make sure that those connections are made. I think Neil got a hand up.
Thanks, Anna. Yeah, great presentation. I was just a little bit late. Will you be sending the presentation around to everyone?
Yes, I will. I'll do a PDF copy of the slide deck and send it across. If I send it to Darren, then Darren, will that be okay to share with everybody?
Yeah, what we normally do after CPAN is put it into like a newsletter and things like that, and then send that round to everybody, where the recordings and the slides, and this recorded actually will be on there as well.
Brilliant.
So yeah, we'll get that probably in the next week or two. That'll come out to everybody. Just one question, Ali. Just in terms of obviously just perhaps around this kind of room, you've got a lot of local authority, GLL kind of providers. What about private pools and kind of private swim school kind of provision? How do we get reach to them, and is there anything that they can get involved with?
So we would do regular presentations on any of the swim teacher networks, the pool operator network calls that we run, but that may only be people that are Swim England relationships. We are keen to talk to any pool operator or owner, no matter how small, including pools that are at universities or in school pools. We try to support the swim teachers and swim schools, not necessarily with the accreditation, because they may not own the building, and the accreditation is associated to the building itself because of the customer journey and the staff that work there. But a lot of our resources, as you can probably imagine, are really relevant still for anyone that's working in the aquatic world, whether it be a swim teacher for the health fact sheets or the CPD, or just school teachers who have a pool at their particular school. So we're keen to work with them, and particularly those individual little community pools where they are maybe funded by a trust of some sort. They don't have the resources. They won't necessarily have health and wellbeing managers or officers as part of their organisation, and that's where we can then actually provide some really quite significant support around opening up that particular pool to those that would benefit from it. So we're interested in talking to anybody.
Well,
Carol?
Thanks very much, Ali. That was really useful. In terms of Good Boost, what cost are we looking at, would you say, on average? Okay, so
it would be, there is the cost of the tablets, which are just over £200 each. You'd then own those. Typically, you'd be looking to 8 to 10 tablets at a time. Some pools have got a lot more than that, but it's very much geared to where you're going to be running your sessions, because, as you can imagine, you can't have a session running for Good Boost in the middle of the pool. It's got to have a side of the pool because you've got to put the tablet on it. So that's the cost of the tablet. The monthly license fee, they're just reviewing it because of the 3 apps, but you're looking at around about £200 a month monthly license fee, which in itself, if this was in my position, if I'm going to be honest, would seem like a huge amount of money. However, if you then break it down to say, okay, I'm going to run 2 sessions a week, which are going to have 8 people in, I'm going to charge those people £5 a time. If you're fully populating those 2 sessions every week, you more than cover your license fee.
Is that £200 per site?
Per site, yeah. Multiple sites may then attract a reduction or a discount of some sort. And if the pool is going through accreditation or starting that accreditation journey, then there are other discounts available at the moment. But Good Boost are just going through a change of their charging policy just to make it a lot easier, because they used to charge different amounts for different apps. The Land app and the Bump Boost pre-postnatal one. They're going to just bundle it all into one. But yeah, that's roughly it. Then there's an additional, I think, about £400 setup fee, which just looks at setting the whole thing up, doing the training, etc. And that's just a one-off fee.
Lovely, thank you.
And I think just from a Good Boost perspective, anyone is thinking about it, the really important thing with Good Boost is it's not, it's a pathway. You use it as a pathway to something. Otherwise, you end up with a situation where the equivalent of the NHS bed blocking, in that everyone starts it and they love it so much they don't want to do anything else, and you've got this huge waiting list, no pool time, but everybody wants to do Good Boost. So the places that do it really well, and actually it was a GLL site, it happened, is where they ran Good Boost right next to an adult learn to swim session, right next to lane swimming for adults. So what someone could do is, the first time they came into the pool with Good Boost, is that they could see what they were going to benefit from Good Boost, but they could just see somebody who looks like them and it behaves like them learning to swim in the next class. And then the next bit would actually be, you just rock up and do lane swimming in the slow lane, and then move yourself up as you accordingly. And that's where you get that pathway. Michael, you've got your hand up again. Is that another one?
Yeah. So is it? Would it lead more towards that lane swim, or would it lead more towards aquarobics as a
anything
output of it? Doesn't matter.
Anything. Very much depends on the individual themselves. So some people are doing it as prehab, they need to wait, they need to lose some weight, they need to get more active before an operation, and they get back to doing what they wanted to do after the operation. Some people are just not active, and maybe they've got arthritis, and they just like good boost. So their natural progression would be to an aqua session of some sort, whether it be one from the Aquatic Activity for Health course, or they just do a mainstream one. So that would be their journey. But the idea with good boost is it opens up all sorts of opportunities. Neil, so you got your hand up, or is that another question?
Sorry, old hand.
Okay. Oh. Cool. Any more questions? Just conscious I've taken up so much time of your time, so thank you for letting me do that.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ali. Honestly, really useful. I think from an active partnership point of view, I know you're discussing with a number of active partnerships, and we've had that conversation with Matt and Zoe as well, trying to connect those into our place leads and place managers as well. So again, we'll continue to kind of bang the drum and support where we can. And obviously I've mentioned some national programs that are coming along pretty thick and fast to connect to the work well. It's all around health and benefits for participants that are stopping them working, etc. So again, if we can connect and plug these kind of programs into that national program, then that's what we can happily do. I'm just thinking as well in terms of resources for partners on the call. We've still got the Sport England Movement Fund, which is open. So local authorities, leisure trusts are eligible to apply for that. So again, if particular partners need some support around that, we can connect you up with our place managers to help you do that. So don't let that kind of resource be a barrier to having a look at this, really. And obviously Zoe, from that business point of view, can provide some support as well. So that's kind of like our offer, if that makes sense. So again, really kind of keen to kind of keep continuing these kind of messages to the network, really. Any other questions from anybody else? I'm conscious of time. We're probably going to gain about 3-4 minutes back. If people have got any other kind of final thoughts? No. Bro, well, the next session for CPAN is on the 9th of June. We've got Ian Tierney from Wheels for All, who's going to come and do a bit of an update on their work and some of their sites that they've got and their expansion and growth plans. Now they are an official partner with British Cycling. So again, that should be really useful. And I know a lot of partners are already connected in with that program. But just to kind of finish off, thanks to Zoe, Ali, and Matt briefly for coming along and just telling us about that, and enjoy the rest of your days. And we've got 5 minutes back to go and get yourself a brew, or you can go and get in the paddling pool and do some of the water wellbeing stuff.
Thank you for your time,
right,
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Good to meet you.
Thanks, everyone.
Nice to meet everyone. Thank you.
Bye.